Hey, World Record Heads, go to hellofresh.com/worldrecordfree and use code WorldRecordFree, all one word, for free breakfast for life.
One breakfast item per box while subscription is active.
That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/worldrecordfree with code WorldRecordFree.
Woo! It's showtime!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the World Record. How you doing, A-Train?
I'm good.
Aaron, how's everything going?
Everybody's good.
Everybody's doing great.
Yes. Yep.
Best day ever so far.
Yep.
Guys, I know you guys don't like surprises, but I have a special surprise for you.
Oh, what is it?
Oh! You want to guess? Do you want to take a guess at what the surprise is?
That laugh sounds familiar.
Does that ring any bells, Aaron?
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah. You might recognize that laugh from when you would hear horrible news stories.
That's right. Yeah. He was always laughing at that stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the one, the only Jackie Joke Man Martling.
Hello there.
Hello.
Jackie, welcome. Thanks for taking time to do the show.
Like I got a lot to do. No, I love this. This is what I do. I sit here all day and do these things, and I enjoy them. You know, it's fun doing this stuff.
Yeah, you're at your place in Long Island?
I'm on the North Shore of Long Island, on Long Island Sound here in Bayville.
Okay, and that's the place you've lived there. You've lived there forever, right? That's the place with the jetty and everything, the famous jetty.
It's no longer there, but yes, this is the place.
So what is it? Well, I saw this is the way this all came about. We took me and the A-Train here. We have two kids together. That's the way it works with podcast hosts now. You have to
have kids with them.
You have to have kids with them, so you can't quit.
It has to happen. I'm sure it has to happen.
Yeah. And we went to we saw there was a children's theater play at this theater, the Hungry Caterpillar, at this place, the El Portal Theater, and I saw on the marquee that you were going to be there, and then a friend of yours reached out to me and said that you'd be on the podcast, but it's great. I went from seeing your name on the marquee. I'm going to be out of town when you're here, unfortunately. But it went from saying, "Oh wow, Jackie's going to be here," to "Wow, now Jackie's
on the show.
Here, live in the flesh."
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Originally it was supposed to be a screening of my documentary, and then things got gummed up like they often do, and we got a distributor, and then we didn't have the right to show it, but then we're going to do it anyway. But now it's back to being a screening, and I think some people still think it's not a stand-up show. It's going to be a screening of my documentary, and then a Q&A. I'm sure I'm going to wind up telling stupid jokes because I can't not do that. But it looks like a beautiful theater from what I could tell, and I'm psyched to come back. I love coming to Los Angeles. It's always fun,
How often do you get out here?
Sometimes 3 or 4 times a year, and sometimes I don't make it out there for a year. I got a very good friend that I go out to visit. Okay. And I try and cram a few things. The last time I came out there, my friend Dave has the I always go to say porta potty, but the Porto hologram thing, and I did Bert Kreischer's podcast. I'm old, I'm a million years older than you. So I'm a couple generations out of the loop. So I don't know what's going on. And then somebody said, "Hey, this guy Bert Kreischer was talking about you." And so I just went on his website and said, "Hey, I heard you talking about me." And they invited me on the podcast, and he didn't want to do Zoom. So I said, "Well, anything is a good excuse to come to Los Angeles." So I went out there and did that, and had dinner with Billy West, and
oh, that's cool.
And just had a little bit of a hoot. It's that simple.
So you keep in touch with Billy West?
Yeah, me and Billy are still really, really close. We were always really good pals, but everybody else kind of flew the coop out of my life, not in a nasty way. They just don't exist,
Yeah. That's pretty wild, man. So how long were you the head writer for the Stern Show? 20 years? Something like that?
No. I started there in 1983, and I was there one day a week for free for 3 years. And slowly I ingratiated myself to the program by, slowly passing Howard notes and ideas. And then he got fired and rehired, and I was still on one day a week. And then we went to mornings, and I became a regular part of the crew. As we said, our entire job description for the whole, and then I did that for 15 years. And my total job description was, I want you to come in and do your thing with the notes.
Yeah.
That was my job description. Do your thing. And I was passing them notes for 15 years and really, really helping along the show. And that's why at the end, I wanted, they were making so much money. I'm like, come on, take a chip off the old, off the soap there and send a little more over this way. And I'm sure I was burnt out, and there was a million different reasons, but it was, what a ride we had. It was just, it was so funny and so fast. And, now you're from Philadelphia, so
yeah, I got it.
Were you aboard for the ride there?
I was a little late, because of the being from Philadelphia, and I was young too. So the John DeBella Morning Zoo thing was a big, that was a big thing in Philly. So it took me a minute to switch over, but by the time I was like 15, so that would have been like 89 or so. I was listening to Stern on YSP. So yeah, I've been there from almost the beginning, over 30 years. And,
wow.
And
it's really funny. I was very good friends with John DeBella long before I met Howard. He was a disc jockey on Long Island at the radio station WLIR that did all the live broadcasts from a club called My Father's Place, where they did live broadcasts like Steve Goodman and Chicago and you name it. And he used to do voiceovers at the studio where I worked. And we actually wrote a TV script together. So I knew him and actually did his radio show a bunch of times in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden I'm on the Stern Show, and he's our arch enemy. It was very weird, and very few people knew that, because who cared,
Yeah, well,
they didn't need to know I used to sleep with the enemy.
What was that? So what was that like then? Because you guys did a whole big funeral for him, where you came down and came down right in front of his radio station and did a funeral for him. What's that like? Is he? I mean, I guess there were no text messages back then, but. When you came home,
no. But
were there messages on your
like
answering machine?
5,000 or 6,000 people in Rittenhouse Square, and the crowd was so loud that it bled onto his air, onto his, through the windows, which is so funny. And that was a classic. I think Scott the Engineer was the body or something, or Joey Buttafuoco was the executioner. I think we did a lot of those funerals, so I get a little mixed up. But it was wild. And it took a while. It wasn't overnight. It was years before we overtook him in Philadelphia. When I first went down to see him in like 1979 or 80, he had like a 13 share. Like he was the king of Philadelphia. And he was so cocky and pompous, but he was like that, when he had nothing, and I got a kick out of him, and I love doing his show, because I love doing radio, it's fun. But then it was really weird, the funeral and all kinds of repercussions, and the crap was flying in a million different directions, Philadelphia and then Los Angeles and then all the different stations. We'd go and do appearances, and it was just a great ride, a really wild ride.
What kind of repercussions were there from that?
From the funeral?
Well, there's some people would get angry, or and things. I don't want to go into it, but horrible things happened with the DeBella thing.
Oh, right.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like his wife killed herself and stuff like that. You know, so it was icky.
That wasn't their fault, though, right? Like that didn't have anything.
No,
to do with
you
the
know
Howard
what
Stern.
happened was
What's that?
there were spies. You know, there were moles everywhere for the Stern Show. But, you know, people say, "Well, you really behaved yourself." You know, I couldn't even thought about cheating on my wife or fooling around or doing anything illegal because there was somebody peeking around every booth, and somebody saw, maybe it was her pool boy or something. She was lying poolside while her husband was on the air, and she was listening to the Stern Show. Somebody called that in, and it was like, you know, and that's funny. It's harmless, but it's, you know, I'm sure it wasn't harmless to them, you know.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's funny. You know?
What about Beetlejuice? Do you keep in touch with him?
Yeah, well, you know, he sleeps over here just about every weekend. You know,
I wish. He's my favorite.
He was there at the tip just before I left. He was there for, I don't know how long. Maybe it might have been a couple of years because he came in sporadically.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, there was not one time, never one time, where he came through that door and I looked and I said, "Oh, him again." It threw me every time I looked at that, whatever it is.
I swear those headphones look like they're going to crush your head like a walnut.
It happens like that.
I was like, it just would skeeve me out. And the greatest thing of all is he's an egomaniac.
Yeah.
Which is the greatest, to try and figure. Yeah, you can't do that math. You cannot compute how that could be an egomaniac. But he certainly fit the mold of the whack pack.
Oh my gosh.
A-Train here does a good impression of him. Do you want to do?
Oh my gosh. Wait, what was it? What would I say?
What I'm gonna do is what I'm gonna do.
What I'm gonna say is what I'm gonna say.
Okay, let him say.
I love.
I don't
probably my
even
favorite.
remember him talking. I don't remember him talking.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, there's the one where I think you guys did him and Gary were doing had to spell red. And they're all dressed up. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he kept going Lster, I guess because his name's Lester.
Oh, okay.
And you, Jackie, were just losing it. You couldn't hold it.
Yeah, I think me and Fred came up with what are we gonna do? Well, let's have a spelling contest. That was the kind of garbage me and Fred used to come up with.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
I mean, I
So
gotta
funny.
say, you're, even though it's been, how long is it? When did you leave the Stern Show? 2000?
2001. It's been 23 years.
Wow.
So longer
And
than when you were
people
on
treat it like it was yesterday. I guess because there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and wherever else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people still talk about it like it was yesterday. And they say, "Oh, I hope you don't mind me talking about this." I'm like, of course. That was a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
It was the most fun stuff in the world. And, it never wore off. It was as much fun the last day as it was the first day I walked in there in 1983.
Yeah.
It's funny. I walked in there in 1983. I had sent Howard my comedy albums, and they called me up to go in. And I walked in, and it was Howard and Robin and Fred. And the last day I was on the air in 2001, it was Howard and Robin and Fred. It was like the same gang forever. We always bragged about, look at this. No TV show stays together, no marriage. Nobody stays together that long. Look at this. We're all still together. And then I was the one that screwed it up, so I feel bad about that. But it was great fun,
Well, I mean, I think it's, the way how people treat it like it was yesterday. It just was such a huge part because when I was living in Philadelphia and, out of high school and was going, riding the L and the subway to different jobs and stuff. And you're listening to the show every day. And it's, it really does ingrain itself. And I think before the internet and stuff, because I'll listen to, sometimes I'll listen to an old episode that you're on or whatever. And it's crazy how I'd only heard it once, maybe in 1990 something. And when I'm listening to it, I remember exactly where I was. And it's not even
it's familiar. I know people tell me that. And it's so strange. It's not like you've seen the rerun 100 times, but it just I guess it stamped itself into people's heads, you know.
Yeah.
It's wild because, and it's not even like big memorable moments, you know. It's not like, oh, that's when they invented Baba Booey or whatever. It's just some weird little thing.
No, right, day-to-day crap. You know,
Yeah.
that show made New York a village.
Yeah.
You know, like once in a while I would be late and I'd be on the expressway and people be honking their horn, you know, you jerk, get to work, you're late, you're a bum, or Howard would be raving about me on the air. But you'd look around and all the heads in the cars would be bobbing, laughing at the same stuff.
Yeah.
Because they were all tuned. And the endless stories of people saying that they pulled over before they went in the tunnel or before they got out of the parking garage because they wanted to, you know, they wanted to see who killed JR.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and it's just such a, it's such a part of like, I mean, like you're laughing stuff like that. Oh, like, I mean, that's just part of just like the landscape for some people's like, you know, it's part of something that kind of raised me, you know, like that's,
you know, it's very funny because that started out as my fault because I'd be sitting there and Fred Norris is just, I can't even express to you what a genius he is. I'm sure you've met everybody. I've met everybody. And there's certain people that are on a pedestal, like Billy West and Fred are in a league by themselves. Fred is faster and smarter and more talented than anybody in the world. And I'd be sitting there and we'd be doing the show and all of a sudden Fred would go, oh. After about however many times, I said, what is that noise? And he said, that's you. I said, what are you talking about? And then one night I did a comedy show and I'm on my way home and I'm listening back to my tape and all of a sudden I hear, ow, because I must have told the joke and I was walking along in the stage and killing time a few seconds between a joke. And I just laughed or whatever it was. And I said, Jesus Christ, Fred. Like an idiot, I came in and gave him the cassette.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, of course, he takes it and has Scott pull that noise.
Yeah.
And then he played it. And then, of course, you know, a busload of Cub Scouts went off a bridge. And, you know, it was so unbelievable. And what's so funny is I would get the blame from people or I would get credit from people. And in reality, all the blame and all the kudos go to Fred. That was his genius. It had nothing to do with me. So I was caught going both ways. And then, of course, they started pulling every single laugh out of everything. So Fred had an arsenal. He must have had 50 of those things, you know. And you know, we used to laugh. Me and Howard used to laugh because when he got going with the sound effects, oh, Fred's painting. Look, Fred's painting.
Well, if you want, for old time's sake, if you want to do your plugs, tell people where they can get all your albums. Is it what is it, Joke
I will
Land?
tell people. I wound up before my regime ended or whatever you call it. I put out 6 CDs that are all. I found out in 1993 when they first started making CDs that 78 minutes was the maximum amount of time you could have on a spoken word CD. So all of my CDs are 78 minutes, and all 6, plus the pot song, which some people know what that is, and the insults and all this stuff, you can get them all for $20. People can't believe it. People say, geez, I bought that 5 years ago. I still been listening to all that. And it's just endless filthy jokes. You know, like I'm not a comedian. I just tell jokes, but I love them and I've always told them. And it's almost 5 hours of filthy jokes. And it's very easy. It's olio.com, O-G-L-I-O, olio.com/J. And you go there and for $20, I mean, you know, who doesn't have $20 in their PayPal? And all of a sudden, boom, you got more jokes than you can shake a stick at, you know. Not that anybody cares, but the people like jokes. It's a good deal, you know.
Yeah, that's $20. Well, I think that you could get to the link through your website too, right? The Jokeland.
Oh yeah, everything's on jokeland.com. But you know, it's just silly stuff. You know, I'm promoting my documentary, and I'm excited. I got a sold out screening tomorrow night here on Long Island at the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, which is really fun. It's actually the first public screening. I had a screening in Manhattan and I had a screening on Long Island, but it was family and friends, so you can't really count that. I want to see when the guy walks in off the street, whether he walks out holding his nose or whether he slaps me on the back. And I think LA is almost sold out, but it'll be interesting to see whether they're going to bring tomatoes or they're going to come laughing. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you're not going to be there. I'd love to meet you, man.
I know.
Yeah, we're bummed.
We're going up to the mountains for the snow, so it's on Saturday night,
Yeah,
right?
it's Saturday night.
I mean, you
How
could
long are you in
drive
town
down
for?
and come back.
Let me ask you a question. Did you schedule this trip after you found out I was going to be there?
Yeah, immediately. When we were walking into the theater, we went on Airbnb.
No, the theater is really cool. We
It's a
really
cool
liked
space.
It. Yeah.
And you're going to you'll tell some jokes afterwards, right?
Yeah, I can't not tell jokes,
Yeah.
It's funny you're from Philly because that guy Bert's from Philly, too. When I sat down, the first thing he said to me was when he was 10 years old, he used to call my dial a joke.
Oh, yeah. 922 wine.
They closed the door so his parents couldn't hear, and him and his brother would call 516-922 wine and laugh at the dirty jokes, he was 10. I'm so old. Jesus Christ, Brandon. I should put my feet up and shut up.
Yeah, maybe that'd be a good closer at your LA show. Just have everybody come up.
I'm just saying goodbye forever, right?
Everybody throws a handful of dirt on you. You got to sell it out so they can cover you with, so they can fully cover you with the dirt.
Chill for a couple. We'll be back.
Whether your resolution is to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all three. Our resolution is to eat better, to get in shape, and with our HelloFresh food, it's so easy and fast and delicious.
Yes, A-Train. This time of year, everyone's looking to revamp their eating habits. Look to HelloFresh's wholesome, health-forward options like over 30 calorie smart and protein smart recipes each week.
You got the calorie smart ones, and we made some of those meals, and I thought they were delicious.
World record heads. You know that we got this trainer guy coming in. We're going to lose weight. HelloFresh is helping us with some meals, so you get in on the action. So go to HelloFresh.com/worldrecordfree and use code WorldRecordFree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/worldrecordfree with code WorldRecordFree.
HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
You're headed straight for morning.
Here, I'm going to call 516-922-WINE right now. Let's see what joke we have lined up today. Can you hear that?
A guy goes for a job interview. The interviewer says, "What do you think is your biggest fault?" The guy says, "I think my biggest fault is my honesty." The interviewer says, "I don't think honesty is a fault." The guy says, "I don't give a fuck what you think." What's the difference between Woody from Toy
I told
Story
that joke
and
to Paul
priest?
McCartney.
Woody goes limp when a little boy walks in the room. Hey, Jack and the joke, man. You know what? I love it when you use your finger and dial 516-922-WINE. 7 p.m. this Saturday night. January 27th, I'll be at the...
So this is going to come out after that. But so you record these. You're actively recording these. You're not just...
No, well, I
tapes in
do
there.
it once every week or once every month. When I have a new gig coming up, I just put that, I just changed that when this came about.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when I don't have anything coming right up, I do something generic like Cameo.com or something like that.
Oh, yeah, you're on Cameo.
I when I first started that, me and Nancy, my future ex-wife, we changed it every day, 7 days a week for the first, I think, 6 years.
Oh my God.
It was we got up to we were getting 15 or 20,000 calls a day. The story of 922 Wine is great. And Rick Dees. Now you know who that is?
Oh yes, I grew
Disco
up
Duck.
in Rick Dees in the weekly top 40. That was here.
Yeah, well, Rick Dees, morning radio in California got wind of my dial-a joke. And it's a long story, but way back, like 1979, and I started the dial-a joke to promote the comedy shows we're doing here. There was no comedy on Long Island. We started the whole thing with some shows in some bar rooms. And we had no money, so no way to promote it. I said, hey, you know what I'll do? I'll get a phone line, I'll put jokes on it and do the ads, which is like television or radio, a little content, a little bit of ads. And it got busy right away. And within a couple of years, I was up to 10 lines that rolled over. And it was such a story, and it was pretty crazy. And Rick Dees got wind of it. Now, in 1979, there was a huge turnover in the country because all of a sudden there was cable TV. Yeah. So all of a sudden you could be sitting in a room watching television with your mother, and all of a sudden on HBO, and there's bare boobs on TV, which was like a whole different thing. Yeah. So the world got a little dirtier and a little dirtier, and I started making dial joke a little dirtier because at first they told me you can't be dirty. They called me up, and the phone company said you got to cool it. But then I started putting my toe further and further in water and got dirty and dirty. And Rick Dees had heard about the phone line. So he started putting the jokes on his morning show, which I didn't know, and putting them on his weekly top 40, which I didn't know. And people are saying, hey, I heard 922 Wine in Minnesota. I heard 922 Wine in New Jersey. I'm like, they told me the jokes. I'm like, those jokes were on weeks ago. How'd that happen? And what happened was Rick Dees had stored them up and put them on his weekly top 40. And at one point he called me up and he said, Jackie, I love your jokes, and I've been using them, and I give you credit, which I don't know if he did. Yeah. But he said, but I can't use them anymore because there's nothing clean enough. Will you do some jokes for me for my show? And I said, sure. And he didn't pay me great, but he paid me, I think it was a couple $100 a month or something. And so I did jokes for him, and he said, you know what? I'm going to tell everybody that you're a dentist from Encino and that you go in the closet and make these jokes. I said, that doesn't help me. Why would I do that? He goes, let me think about it. He called me back the next day. He says, how's this sound? These jokes are from Jackie, the joke man Martling, the guy from New York that knows every joke in the world. I said, sold. So Rick Dees is the guy who named me the joke man of all the crazy things, which is fun. And he used to tell his audience that 516-922-9463, he used to tell his audience that was Tom Selleck's home phone number. Yeah.
Well, now kids...
So the people are stupid enough that they dialed it. Hello, Tom.
Well, anybody can call it. And the best thing now is when I was a kid, there was long distance charges and you would get in trouble. There was the 976 numbers. Do you remember those back then too? I actually did. There was a dial-a-joke. Yeah. In New York Telephone had dial-a-joke with Henny Youngman, and then I actually for a couple of years did dial-a-joke Blue. Okay. For the same company, and that was after from 12 o'clock at night to like 5, and they weren't dirty. They were just a little bit dirtier. You know what's so funny? When I first did 922 Wine, I had little stickers. And it said X-rated dial-a-joke. Yeah. I swear to God, it's one of my prized possessions. I have a cease and desist letter from AT&T, from Ma Bell. Monstrous AT&T sent a cease and desist to this guy with a phone answering machine in his mother's attic saying you cannot use that as our patented slogan, dial-a-joke. So I had to redo it and make it X-rated joke line. I couldn't say dial-a-joke, which was it was so petty. I reveled in it. That's great. I'm threatening AT&T. It doesn't get any better than that, man. I remember I got in a lot of trouble. I was pretty young when the dial-a-joke was out, and my brother and I were at our grandparents' house, and we probably called it like 20 times, 50 times in a day, and it cost like $1 every time you did it. And when my grandparents got the bill, they lost their shit. But I even remember back, it was the same fucking joke though. That's what I don't understand why we called it. We called it like 50 times, and it was just some Phyllis Diller. It was Phyllis Diller doing some joke, and we just listened to the same joke over and over. But but
you're having fun. You're having fun. Who cares, right?
Well, now people can call 516-922-WINE, and there's no long distance. It's totally free now with the cell phones.
Right. People say to me, "Oh, why you must make so much money with that?" That line has cost me for 45 years. It's cost me so much money, especially in the early days. I had 10 answering machines and 5 backup machines and all the tapes and all. all the heartache, and then I wound up with a computer to answer them.
Oh my gosh.
It didn't make me any money, and it wasn't a long. If you were calling from Long Island, for the most part, it was never a long distance call. So you were basically calling my mother's house. That's all it was. You were calling people say, "Oh, you made so much money." I never made a nickel. I never made a nickel. Except it got me so much. The stories are endless. Rick Rubin, the producer.
Yeah.
The first time he sat down with the Stern Show in like 1987 or something, he was Rick Rubin, but he wasn't Rick Rubin yet. And we were doing one of those circular things with the phone, with all the radio stations at the Grammys or the Emmys or whatever it was. And we're all sitting around, and he, and the celebrities are going from table to table so they could be on in Detroit and Cleveland and Miami, And Rick Rubin sat down across from me and Howard and Rob, and the first thing he said was, "Jackie, I grew up in Long Beach on Long Island, and I called 922 Wine every morning." And I've never run into him again, so I can ask him, did I make that up, or did you really say that? Which is fun, Like everything in my life, it doesn't make me a nickel, but it's a good story.
Yeah. That's so you had Jackie's Joke Hunt on the Sirius for how long did that go on for? A few years, 5 years?
8 years.
8 years, wow.
402 very, very filthy shows. And we had the guy who was my co-host on that show is the guy who produced and directed the documentary. And we had the greatest. We had like Pat Cooper. We had the original cast of Jersey Boys. We had Sid Bernstein, the guy that brought the Beatles to America.
Wow.
And Bobby Slayton, and a whole slew, a weird array. Those weird people from Jersey with that reality show. I can't watch that crap, so I don't even know who they were.
Yeah.
But so much fun, much fun.
Where can people see your documentary? Is it streaming everywhere now, or is it just do you order it through?
No, it was up, but now it's down. The way to see it, the best way, of course, you can branch off of jokeland.com, but there's a specific website, jokemanmovie.com. And that takes you to a page that has, a button to click to go to the Vimeo. It's on Vimeo now. It's like $3.99. But there's also a whole slew of reviews and fun stuff. So if you're not sure about it, go to that and see. The reviews are frighteningly stellar.
Yeah,
some of them read like I wrote them. But it's jokemanmovie.com.
You have people in your mom's attic now with instead of the phones, you have people writing reviews for your documentary up there.
You know what I got in my mom's attic? I have every note I ever wrote that Howard said.
Oh, wow.
Every note I ever wrote that he said. There are boxes, and in fact, I just sold them to some guy, some couple in San Francisco. They're going to try and mine them. Because, like, if you said, you know what you were just saying? You hear something, you say, wow, I feel like I heard that yesterday. If somebody says, oh, you know what, I remember when so-and-so was on, it was so funny. If you tell me that date, I can find that stack of notes.
Wow.
And I didn't write jokes for Howard. I just wrote, like, a word or a sentence or a half a sentence. And it was just stuff to punch up what was going on. That's why it worked so fast on the fly. But you can't I couldn't have done it. Nobody could do that with anybody else but him, because it was so fast and he could seamlessly put it. People had no idea. To this day, there's people that don't believe. What were you writing? What could you have been writing? The show was spontaneous and it just flowed along. I said, but it was seamless, and it was really was quite a deal.
You had the little condoms on your fingers too back then for a while.
That was so funny. I don't know if you ever had calluses on your fingers and then they crack in the wind. I mean, there was nothing more painful.
Oh man!
And I thought it was from whatever was on the paper the drying agent on the paper.
Okay.
And then I finally realized it was from all the alcohol in my body that my fingers were drying up from all the alcohol, which is so obvious because I was so drunk all the time.
Wow.
It's just
Do you still you don't drink anymore, right? Is that the story, or you just kind of
I quit in 2001, I quit drinking. Got divorced, wound up without a job, and moved into a house by myself all at the same time. And I have to fervently say, I do not recommend that.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
The worst time to get sober. I
don't think anything worse could have
Any
happened.
one of those things.
In
Moving
2000.
into a house, when you move, or if you quit drinking, or if you lose your job, or you get divorced, they say don't change anything else in your life because that alone is enough to throw you. And I did all four at once.
Yeah.
And it was, whoa, you know.
And that was
But I came out of it and I'm fine. I'm fine.
And that was in 2001?
2001.
Well, anything else bad happened in 2001? I don't think. Yeah,
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
No, nothing.
Yeah, so that was
that was what was crazy because people said, wow, you and Artie Lang, it's weird that you guys are still friends. And I'm like, still friends? You know, like there was no crossover. There was no crossover. Artie started on the show way after me. Yeah. He started on the show after 9/11, you know. Yeah. Which, I still can't wrap my brain around that whole thing, you know. But
so you still,
I'm a slow learner.
I know your whole big thing is you know every joke. You used to do a thing. Is Stump the Joke Man something you do at all your live shows, or was that just part of the joke hunt?
I did it all the time. I don't always do it now because I'm such a loudmouth, and I don't work all that much. So when I finally get a gig, I just go on and on and on. By the time I'm done telling jokes, the audience is exhausted. I'm exhausted. But I did that every show for
that's that old
30 years or whatever. And I still have the shirts and everything. Yeah. You know, it was such a no-lose proposition. Because, of course, I don't know all the jokes. I just know more jokes than anybody else. But, of course, jokes are going to slip through the cracks. And everyone, you know, people tell me all the time, and I listen to every joke anybody wants to tell me because there's always a chance there's going to be one I never heard before. And then when I fall down laughing at something, they're like, you don't have to, you know, pretend you haven't heard it. I said, I would never pretend. I really never heard that before. And I think it's really funny or whatever. But I'd be on stage and I'd get all the girls on stage and be so politically incorrect that I'm telling you, they would have put handcuffs on me if anybody was at the shows. But the girls knew what they were in for, and they'd come up on stage, you know, 5 of them, 10, 12, whatever. So I'd have the girls on stage, and I'd talk to them and interview them. And then I'd have the guys stand up. And one by one, the guys would stand up and give me the setup, and I'd give them the punchline. Another guy stand up and give me the setup, and I would just know them all, and the crowd would go nuts. Yeah. But when somebody stumped me, they went even crazier. So there was a no-lose proposition, because I knew every joke, but they loved to see me lose. Well, you know, they were thrilled to watch me lose. And, you know, of course, I'd feign that I was angry and, you know, throw the shirt at the guy's head. And what a free-for-all. Just wonderful, wonderful fun.
Well, I have an idea. How about I give you, I love street jokes as well. And how about I give you the punchline and see if you can do the setup?
I hate that. I hate that expression. I hate the expression dad jokes, street jokes, joke jokes. Old jokes. No, it's got.
They're just jokes.
You're not alone. That's what everybody calls them.
Yeah.
But to me, jokes are jokes. And as far as old jokes and new jokes, an old joke is a joke you heard before. A new joke is a joke you haven't heard before. Right. And that applies to every joke with every single person. Because I can tell a joke to you and the person next to you, and if they've heard it already, they'll go, "Oh, that's old." But to you, it's new. Right. So I'm done with my lecture. Well, now let's hear your stupid joke.
Okay. Well, this is one I just heard recently, and let me know. I don't think I've heard this one before. And like I said, I like jokes. So somebody just told me this. What does a 14-year-old, what does a pregnant 14-year-old and her fetus have in common?
Oh God. Oh God. I'm so glad I have no idea.
Okay. They're both thinking, oh man, my mom's going to kill me.
Unfortunately, that is a very, very funny joke. You know, if a joke's funnier than it is horrible, you know, you laugh. If you laugh before you go, ooh, you know what?
That's a good one.
I actually think I might have heard that before, and I just probably put it out of my mind so fast.
Yeah.
But that's somebody told me something not like that, but that kind of dark joke.
Yeah.
Oh, what the? Oh,
What's a favorite? Here's this is the punchline to maybe one of my favorite jokes that I like to tell people. Here's the punchline. Tell me if you can if you know the setup. Oh yeah, he shit in my pants too.
I not only love that joke, I have such a history with that joke. There was a comic who used to work at the Aztec Lounge in Miami Beach named Don Sebastian. And he was a friar and one of those old time, like Catskill guys, Freddie Roman and Dick Capri and all those guys. But he worked at the Aztec Lounge down in Fort Lauderdale or in Miami, and he made records.
Uh-huh.
He made his own records the kind of way I did. And my friend came back from Fort Lauderdale one time, and he said, look, I got this album for you. He gave me this album with all these filthy jokes on it, and I loved them. And that was one of the ones that I hadn't heard, and I loved that joke. So then I wind up on the Morton Downey Jr. show with me and Otto and George. You know who that is?
Yeah, Otto and George. Late, he just passed away. Well,
me and Otto and George and another dirty comedian, and we're on the Morton Downey Jr. show, and it was us versus the Catskill guys, Don Sebastian and Freddie Roman and Stewie Stone. And the whole premise was, why do you have to be dirty? There's no reason to be dirty. And so Stewie and Freddie and Don Sebastian are going, there is no need to be off color to be funny. And I said, hey, Don, does this sound familiar? Well, you better give him $40 because he's shitting your pants, too. The guy went white. His face went white. He's like, I must have been one of the 13 people that bought his stupid album. And it was just, and then that is a great joke. And I applaud. I applaud your choice of joke, but now I think you better tell the joke and not frustrate the audience.
Yeah, you gotta tell me.
Well, your punchline's slightly different than the way I heard it, but okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell the joke. So there's unless you want to tell it, because you have the original. I probably have a bastardized.
No, I love watching other people butcher jokes.
Okay, all right. So there's this. Let me think how it starts. So there's a guy. He's a drunk. He's sitting at the bar, and he throws up all over his shirt. And he says to the bartender, he's like, "Oh man, that's it. I just threw up all over myself. My wife's been giving me shit about my drinking. I'm going to show up with puke on me. She's going to kick me out of the house." Bartender says, "No, listen. This is what you do. Take a $20 bill, put it in your shirt pocket, tell her somebody else threw up all over you, and they gave you $20 for the dry cleaning." Okay, he thinks about it, has a few more drinks. On his way home, he remembers the bartender's advice, puts the $20 bill in his shirt pocket, shows up, his wife's at the door, pissed off. "Look at you, you're drunk again, you puked all over yourself, that's it, you're done, you're out of here." He goes, No, honey, listen. Somebody else threw up all over me, and look, they gave me $20 for the dry cleaning. She grabs the money. She goes, "There's $40 here." He goes, "Oh, yeah, they shit in my pants, too."
That is just a great joke.
Yeah,
that's just a great joke.
One of the, that's.
Hey, let me tell you, this is the one. Somebody came up to me and told me this the other night, and they couldn't believe I hadn't heard it. And I actually couldn't believe I hadn't heard it either. But it's so harmless. And you can tell it to anybody. A guy buys a farm. And so he figures he's got a farm, he's got to have a cow. So he goes to a cow sale. And he sees a cow, it's a nice cow. And he turns to the guy selling the cow. He says, "I think I want to buy this cow, but I need to make sure it's still viable." And the seller's like, "Well, whatever you got to do." So the guy reaches under and pulls on one of the cow's nipples. And the cow cuts a fart.
Uh-huh.
So the guy pulls on another nipple. And the cow cuts an even bigger fart. And the guy turns to the guy selling the cow and says, "This cow is from Minnesota, isn't it?" And the seller says, "Yeah, how could you tell?" He says, "My wife is from Minnesota." Which is just so cute. That's just a funny joke. I don't care who you are. That's a funny joke.
How about, let's get into some jokes. Well, A-Train, I feel like I'm hogging the whole thing. You have any questions for Jackie?
I like it. No, I just want to listen. No,
Yeah.
I don't really have any questions. I'm enjoying it, though.
Okay.
I'm having a nice time.
I'll tell you, this is my, you have an act you're a comic, you know, you love doing your act, but this place is in your act where it's happy. It's happy time when you get there. I don't know if full disclosure, I don't care. But you're going along with, I love telling this one. Right? I actually love telling more, but this. Yeah. The girl goes to the gynecologist. The girl goes to the gynecologist. Says, Doc, I'm freaking out. I keep finding postage stamps from Costa Rica in my vagina. So he examines her. He says, lady, those aren't postage stamps. Those are the stickers from bananas. That's fun. I don't give a. If somebody doesn't laugh, they can go jump off a building. I don't care. That's fun.
Let me give you. I'm gonna.
Let's talk about that joke. That was horrible. The joke about the girl and the fetus is horrible. You know, there was so many jokes about about fetuses and and what the baby's doing in there. I'm not going there. But
well, come on. Did I offend the joke, man?
The worst thing I heard in my life is the day after 9/11, Joan Rivers called her girlfriend and said, "Hey, you want to go to lunch at Windows on the Ground?" Well, it doesn't get any colder than that. And she was a staunch believer in, listen, a joke. You can joke about anything. That's our job. That's what we do. Screw the world if you can't. I mean, she didn't say that on the Carson show. She said that to her girlfriend. But that story got around pretty quick,
For the full uncut episode, head to patreon.com/World Record Podcast. For the full uncut episode, head to patreon.com/World Record Podcast. Patreon.com/World Record Podcast.